From the Israel Sports Radio Studios in Jerusalem, Israel, our nation's capital, it's Louis Live. Nice host, me, Ari Louis. Good evening, everyone out there. Hope everyone is doing well. It's Wednesday night here in Jerusalem, Israel, our nation's capital. Happy Yom Yerushalayim Day. Day just passed. It was a great day. A lot of different celebrations in the capital city. A lot of different speakers, different events. Hope everyone enjoyed that. If you're listening to us in the United States and weren't aware, we did have Yom Yerushalayim. It was in 1967 that the control of Jerusalem went back into Israel hands, and the calculation on that is 46 years ago. So it feels like we've had Jerusalem forever, but we've only gotten it back in recent times in the last 46 years. So to give you some perspective on that, we haven't had it for that long this time around, and we plan on having it forever. So that was Yom Yerushalayim earlier today. We have a great sports show, a lot of different topics to get into. NBA playoffs in the second round. Very, very exciting first-round action. We'll talk about that later on. And, of course, on the line with us now to talk about the aftermath of the Floyd Mayweather-Robert Guerrero fight, in addition to Manny Pacquiao coming back, is our good friend Joe Robbins. Joe, welcome back to Louis Live on Israel Sports Radio.
Thanks, Ari. Always good to be here.
Absolutely. So let's talk about it. Floyd wins, unanimous decision, looked great, couldn't really be touched. And actually, before we get to the winner, let's talk about the loser. Last time you were on, you broke the news on this network about Robert Guerrero facing gun charges. He brought an unloaded gun to an airport in New York as part of the 24/7 run for Showtime, a Showtime shot. Anything there new that we should know about? Any news, or is he looking at about 2+ years in prison?
No updates yet. The latest is he's still looking at that time. He has his initial hearing next month. He's not required to be there for it, but sources say there's a good chance that he will be in court for the hearing to show that he cares, that he wants to fight these charges, to show his remorse, which is definitely legitimate. But the one thing I will say is that during the fight, whether it was on his mind or not, he definitely didn't show it either in his pre-fight interview, during the fight, or his post-fight interview. He thanked God. We all know how big of a part of his life his religion is. He thanked God for the opportunity to fight. He thanked the fans. He thanked Floyd Mayweather. Very stand-up act, which is exactly what everyone who has seen or heard Guerrero previously expected. So no mention of the charges. He didn't discuss it, and when asked about what's next for him, he spoke about his next fight. So definitely this is something that he's going to have to deal with, but no indication that he was thinking about it or will be thinking about it for the next few days until he gets his legal team together and starts approaching it.
All right, so if he's talking about his next fight, then he thinks somehow, some way he's going to get off these charges, because I imagine if he goes to prison for 2 or 3 years, most likely his boxing career would be over. He would be 33 if he goes to prison for 3 years and 3 years of ring rust. I know Ali did 3 years of ring rust, but that was from ages 25 to 28 respectively, and it was Muhammad Ali, not Robert Guerrero. Most athletes that take off 3+ years are done. But he does not seem to think he's going to prison, I suppose, if he's talking about his next fight. Would that be his mind state?
Yeah, I had the exact same thought when he mentioned it. In the ring afterwards, Jim Gray interviewed him, and Guerrero's first thing was talking about going back to the drawing board and his next opponent, and along the lines of, he mentioned that Mayweather was better than he expected, and he would take what he learned from this fight into his next fight, and he was ready to box. So yeah, and he definitely sounded like he believed what he was saying, not just he was saying it to keep people's minds off of it, but he definitely seemed genuine in his belief that he will be fighting again, and it'll be 6 months from now, most likely, on the normal boxer's timetable.
All right, so he thinks somehow he's going to get out of this. Now let's move on to Floyd Mayweather, still undefeated. In his entire career, he's only had really one close fight, and it was not that long ago, or I should say relatively, 6 years ago, he said Oscar De La Hoya would be his last fight. He then said Ricky Hatton would be his last fight. He retired for a year and a half and is still fighting in 2013. Before we get to how dominant he was and legacy and his future, let's talk about how much money he made. I was told through sources he made $30 million plus guaranteed. Then he gets a share of the pay-per-view revenue. So tell us financially, what type of a night was that for Floyd Mayweather?
It was definitely a huge payday. Like you mentioned, he received $32 million guaranteed, which is the highest purse ever. Tied the record for his own record set last year for the Miguel Cotto fight. The reason that he got paid so much for that last year was because Cotto's such a huge draw, and it was the anticipated bout that everybody wanted. This time around, it was the first fight of his $200 million six-fight deal with Showtime. So as part of that, he got $32 million guaranteed. The interesting thing coming out is that the pay-per-view didn't do as well as anticipated. Reports are Showtime needed to hit 1.1 to 1.2 million pay-per-view sales to break even, and both Kevin Iole and Dan Raphael, Kevin Iole of Yahoo Sports, Dan Raphael of ESPN, are reporting and in conversation with each other that pay-per-view numbers are coming in under 1 million. So Mayweather definitely will make a lot for this fight. He should top 40 million because his deal is he gets 90% of the profits and Guerrero got 10%.
Whoa.
So even though the pay-per-view were low for Showtime, he worked out this incredible deal. And no question Mayweather is the draw, but a 90-10 split is phenomenal for Mayweather, and he's the only person in boxing who could pull that off. So he will get, between the pay-per-view money he does get and the ticket sales, they sold out the 16,000-seat MGM Garden arena. He should top 40 million, not the payday that some expected because of the low pay-per-view sales, but definitely a payday that only Mayweather could get. Still is the only boxer that could get that type of payday in this day and age with the way boxing is right now. The interesting thing to see, though, and this we can come back to in a few minutes when we talk about where Mayweather goes from here, but the interesting thing to see is Showtime is not going to let Mayweather fight or do everything in its power to keep him from fighting another person who will go under the pay-per-view marks and the pay-per-view target, especially when they're paying him $32 million guaranteed for a fight. So expect to see in his next fight a bigger pay-per-view draw than Guerrero was. But Guerrero made $3 million guaranteed for the fight, which was the biggest purse of his career. So $3 million for a loss. Not bad at all. Plus, he'll get his 10%, and his pay-per-view could bump him up into the $4.5 to $5 million range. And Floyd Mayweather should end up with around $40 million again.
All right, and $40 million would make him the highest-paid athlete this year, most likely. Obviously, there's endorsements out there for other athletes, but meaning contractual-wise, Alex Rodriguez does not make that much. Kobe Bryant, if he plays next season, will make $30.5 million. So Floyd Mayweather would be the highest-paid North American athlete this year, correct?
Definitely, and it's not confirmed, but Mayweather has said, and he said again the other night, that he's fighting again in September. So we're looking at another year for Floyd Mayweather like he had previously, where he earned upwards of $80 million, and depending on who that fight is against in September and the pay-per-view buys, he could break his own record and earn close to $100 million in salary. Somewhere in the $90 to $100 million range. If that September fight, if he goes through with it, which he has made clear at this point he's intending to, that would bring in another probably 45 to 50 million for that fight, if not more, which would put him up into that place where, in terms of North American sports stars, and maybe even everyone but Michael Schumacher, the greatest F1 racer of all time, maybe would put Floyd Mayweather as the highest paid in salary or winnings for a season in history.
All right, now let's talk about dominance in the fight. For some reason, I obviously didn't pick Robert Guerrero to get an upset victory. I thought because he was looking at the prison he would sentence that he kind of would go in nothing to lose. I thought we'd get a little bit of Rocky out of him, and I thought he'd make it competitive. I predicted a knockout in the 10th. It did go to the distance, but it was, my understanding, not so competitive, and that Floyd was just that dominant. Give us your take in your scorecard. How many rounds did Floyd Mayweather win, and talk about his overall dominance in the fight?
I had Mayweather winning 10 of the 12 rounds. Each judge gave him 9 of the 12. I thought that was over generous of the judges. I thought Guerrero got either the first or second round. Both were close, but I would definitely give Guerrero, I would say, the first round. Mayweather was sort of feeling his way back in the ring and then started to exert himself in the second round. And then in a later round, Guerrero took it, and what came out after the fight that Mayweather said, and he showed his hand for proof to show that he wasn't just making excuses, Mayweather hurt his hand, which is probably the only reason why the fight went the distance. Mayweather had Guerrero on the ropes and would have knocked him out if he hadn't have switched his left hand, and he said he hurt his hand in one of the middle rounds, and that's the only other round that went to Guerrero. So I had Mayweather winning 10 of 12 rounds. Even the 2 that he lost weren't by much. Guerrero barely touched him. Yet again, in another Mayweather fight, no blood, no bruising on Mayweather, absolutely nothing, when his opponent was not only bloodied and cut, but extremely swollen. Mayweather just worked with his right hand for the majority of the fight until he injured it. It looks like it wasn't a break in his hand, just a bad injury, but until he bruised his hand, he went to work on with his right hand, and the left side of Guerrero's face showed it. In addition to the cut above Guerrero's left eye, the left side of his nose, his forehead, his cheek were all extremely swollen and starting to open up. So Mayweather just went to town. And then the incredible thing, which speaks to Mayweather's dominance both in the fight but also in general due to his being such a great defensive tactician, once he hurt his hand, he switched to the left for the 11th and 12th rounds, and Guerrero started getting bruised and swollen on the right side of his face. So he was in such complete control, Mayweather was, that after he hurt his right hand and stopped being able to punish Guerrero's left side of the face, Mayweather said, "It's all right, I'll switch to the other one for the rest of the fight." He wasn't able to knock Guerrero out as a result, but he was able to completely dominate those last 2 rounds like he had dominated the other rounds.
All right, so in other words, had he not hurt his hand, I would have been right. He would have knocked him out in the 10th. My prediction would have been validated, right?
Maybe even earlier. I mean, depending on how early he hurt his hand, which Mayweather and his father didn't know. They weren't even sure what round it happened in. But there were 2 times. It started in the 8th round and then went again into the 9th round, and that's when Mayweather had to stop, he said, because the pain of the injury kicked in. But I think it would have happened in the 9th round, and definitely by the 10th he would have been right, because there was a flurry where Mayweather landed combinations, he hurt Guerrero, and then while Guerrero was trying to regain himself, Mayweather hit him again and then switched to the left. So it looked like the knockout would have come there, but yeah, definitely you would have it looks like you were going to be spot on even with the injury, but much like the Victor Ortiz fight, 2 fights ago for Mayweather, obviously that ended in controversy in the 4th round with what some people called the sucker punch. But even if he hadn't, Mayweather would have knocked Ortiz out, no question, and probably only a round or 2 later. It was the same thing with this fight. He won by unanimous decision, but only because of his injury. If he hadn't been injured, he knocked Guerrero out almost for sure. Guerrero couldn't touch him and was taking such punishment. I don't think the ring would have ended. I think Mayweather would have I don't think Guerrero's corner would have ended it. I think Mayweather would have ended it with his 2 hands.
There you go. Now, Floyd does have a history of hand problems, so it's not nothing new, but wins anyway. And before we start to talk about his future and legacy, let's talk about his father. You mentioned Floyd Mayweather Sr. Their relationship has clearly been off and on for years. They basically were not on speaking terms. It looks like that's somewhat healed. What's your assessment of the relationship currently between Floyd Jr. and Floyd Sr.?
It looked great. Definitely the best that it's been in years. I think probably since they stopped speaking, like you mentioned. You could see in the ring that it wasn't just the professional relationship as fighter and trainer, but there was also the father-son relationship. They hugged multiple times after the fight. Floyd Mayweather Sr. was rubbing Floyd's shoulder going into the ring, and again, not as a trainer, but like a father would. So clearly there was that familial bond back, which was great to see because it definitely helped in the ring also. But some reasons for it, some different things that I've heard since the fight. One, we know that one of the reasons that Floyd went with Floyd Mayweather Sr. instead of his uncle Roger Mayweather, who he's also had great success with, is because Roger is battling some medical issues. And so some people surmise that Mayweather realizes that his father is getting older like his uncle is, and he said, it's time to patch things up. So that's on the family side. On the boxing side, Mayweather has been at his best historically with his father as his trainer because of the defense. And he alluded to that in the ring after the fight. He alluded to that in interviews post-fight once they left the ring. And he definitely looked as good as he had defensively in years. And leading into the fight, Floyd Mayweather had said that he took a couple of shots against Cotto. He received a couple of shots from Cotto that he wouldn't have taken earlier in his career. He wouldn't have either dropped his hand or whatever it was in that scenario. And we know that Mayweather's so good, he was still able to win the Cotto fight. But Floyd Mayweather Sr. came in, and the first thing he did was work on that defense. And he said, I made sure that we weren't going to let him take any punches like he did in that Cotto fight. So professionally, on the boxing side of things, reuniting with his father was definitely the best thing, and he looked good. You mentioned some ring rust from being in jail. That was something that I had questions about too. The analysts were talking about how it was his first fight in a year, but as we've discussed multiple times, one fight a year has become the norm for Floyd Mayweather. So I wasn't concerned about that at all, but I was concerned that maybe the time in jail would have had an impact, and maybe it did in that first round, but then the training kicked in, and Mayweather is just a defensive wizard. He was using the ropes to his advantage. He would go up against the rope. Guerrero would throw a shot. Mayweather would duck under it. It's amazing how quick he still is, and he might be a little more flat-footed than he used to be, but the speed at which he moves, at which he ducks punches, Robert Guerrero connected 19% of his punches to Mayweather's 41%, and Mayweather connected 60% of his power punches, which is an incredible number. So not only was he great defensively like we expected him to be, but Mayweather turned that defense into offense and was able to pummel Guerrero as a result of reuniting with his father and getting that defense back on track.
All right, now you mentioned that Floyd wants to fight in September. He's 36 years old. Let's talk about his future. Has he indicated how many fights he has left in the tank, and how many fights do you expect from Floyd Mayweather Jr. at this time?
It's a great question because he hasn't indicated how many he has left, but he did sign the 6-fight deal with Showtime, and this was the first fight. So contractually, unless he retires, he has 5 fights left. The reason it's such a great question is there aren't 5 quality fights to be made right now for Floyd Mayweather. You can look at him going up in weight, down in weight, staying in his own weight class. There aren't 5 great fights with the way the boxing landscape is right now. Now, 5 fights could take him to 2.5 or 3 years from now, depending on how they're spaced out. If he fights in December, that'd be 4 fights. He could get it done in 2.5 years, realistically, because he's probably not going to keep fighting every 6 months, knowing Mayweather. So it really brings into question who he's going to fight down the line. But for now, I think the fight that needs to be made for Mayweather and for this Showtime deal with what I mentioned previously about the pay-per-view buys, I think it comes down to one person, and that's Saul Canelo Alvarez. We spoke about how he wants Mayweather, how he's also planning on fighting September 14th. That's the date Mayweather has locked in. Canelo will definitely do the pay-per-view buys. Canelo sold out the 40,000-person Alamo Dome 2 weeks ago by himself, essentially, because Austin Trout is a great fighter but doesn't have the same draw, and especially being a Mexican fighter with that fan base, those tickets in the Alamo Dome in Texas, that crowd was probably 95% Mexican and 5% in favor of Austin Trout. So Canelo has that huge fan base, does the pay-per-view buys himself, and this is the chance with Floyd Mayweather fighting Canelo, we could see another 1.5 million pay-per-view sales easily from that bout. That would satisfy Showtime. That would be great for Mayweather's legacy. I've seen Canelo's last 3 fights, and I saw his first one when he sort of had his coming out party and announced himself to the national scene. And after seeing Floyd Mayweather Saturday night, I think it would be a good fight, but Mayweather definitely beats Alvarez at this point in Alvarez's career. So financially, legacy-wise, the best thing for looking ahead with 4 fights to go, presumably after this fight, I think that Saul Canelo Alvarez needs to be the next fight that's made for Mayweather.
All right, now you mentioned legacy. At this point, again, Floyd will have some fights left unless he retires all of a sudden. But at this point in time, 44-0, 26 knockouts. Every single fight of his in victory has been dominant, except the first fight with Jose Luis Castilla. Many people thought at ringside that Jose pulled off the decision. It's the only time Floyd has fought someone in a rematch and was clearly victorious the second time around, kind of removing doubt there. Let's talk about where he ranks all time at this point. He has not had, I should say, he has 2 knockouts in the past, I believe, 6 years, something to that effect. And not much of a knockout guy, but thoroughly dominates his opponents. Where, in your opinion, does he rank all time and in this generation of fighters?
In this generation, I think he's number 1. I think he's cemented himself over Sugar Shane Mosley, Oscar De La Hoya, some of the other great fighters of this generation, all Hall of Famers, all people who Floyd has beaten. In this generation, he's number one. He's once in an era, in my opinion. Overall, it's tough, and Floyd Mayweather Sr. was even talking about this on Saturday night. The one thing that's going to hold back Mayweather's legacy, forget about the Pacquiao fight not happening, forget about any of the other things, assuming he remains undefeated, which there's no reason to think that he can. He'll finish with at least 48 victories, undefeated. The main hindrance to his legacy is the fact that he fought in a time that was pretty slim pickings in boxing for his weight class and his weight classes. He's being Hall of Famers. He's dominated them. But you look at some of the other people when they were fighting, Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard, some of these different fighters who were not only the best in their time, but probably top 10 of all time, definitely Muhammad Ali. They had to fight so many more Hall of Famers, the level of talent, all of those things. So that's definitely not Floyd Mayweather's fault, and that's the argument that Floyd Mayweather Sr. made after the fight. He said, my son has beaten everyone in his era. It's not his fault that he lived in a weak era of boxing. And I think that quote, or that's paraphrasing a little bit, but I think that phrase from Floyd Mayweather Sr. really explains it all. Mayweather is the best pound for pound in the world. He has been for years. The only time he lost pound for pound king in the last 3 or 4 years was because he wasn't fighting and Pacquiao won all those fights in a row. So even that, if we're talking in boxing terms, it was more like he vacated the pound-for-pound title. No one took it from him. So I think definitely the best of the era, but when it comes to top 10 all-time, he'll probably end up towards the bottom of that, or maybe even just on the outside looking in, again, at no fault of his own, because I think even if the Pacquiao fight had been made at the best time, at the best possible time, and it was the biggest fight in boxing history statistically and all of that, that's just another Hall of Famer to add to the list, but doesn't help prop up the era at all, and it's not another 5 Hall of Famers to add to the list.
There's a hilarious video, Floyd Mayweather, this was probably 5-6 years ago. He is, being interviewed on someone by ESPN, and they introduce him as the former pound-for-pound champion, and he gets on and says, how am I former? No one's beaten me. And they go through a whole argument, but it's very hilarious. So you are right in that's the only time he was a pound-for-pound champion, when he basically retired and didn't fight for a year and a half. But as I like to say, boxers never really retire, because how many times has Sugar Ray Leonard retired and came back? Floyd's retired a few times and came back. Joe, I know that we want to discuss Manny Pacquiao. We don't have time. That means you have to come back again very soon to talk about it. We're at the end of the segment, but thank you so much for being on Louis Live on Israel Sports Radio. Everyone can check out Joe at OMG Poetry. Find on Facebook. You can also type into YouTube and listen to one of his poems on Israel Sports Radio. Joe, thank you so much as always.
Thanks a lot, Ari. Always a pleasure.
All right, be well.
You too.
All right, Joe Robbins giving us the breakdown of the Floyd Mayweather fight versus Robert the Ghost Guerrero. A bit of a ghost after that fight. His career, I don't want to say in shambles, but I mean, that's kind of it. You fight Floyd Mayweather, that's your chance of a lifetime. You lose, and that's pretty much it. If you take a look at his opponents, before we bring on the next guest, I'm actually going to bring up some of his opponents. When you see afterwards, here's some of the names. Zab Judah, he fought 2006 against Floyd. That was actually a pretty competitive fight for about 3 or 4 rounds before Floyd took over and dominated. Zab really hasn't done anything. Neither is Carlos Baldomir. Oscar De La Hoya was basically done. That was his last significant fight, was against Floyd in 2007. Hatton was basically done after he lost to Floyd in the 10th round TKO in 2007. Shane Mosley has been basically done. Victor Ortiz, Miguel Cotto. I mean, they go against Floyd, they lose, they're pretty much done. That's the way it goes, and hopefully Floyd will fight in September. Time will certainly tell on that front. We're going to keep it right here and not go to a commercial break. We have a very special guest coming up. Little local flavor. We talked about the American sports, the American landscape, and now we're going to switch it locally. A big game coming up in the world of lacrosse this Friday between Tel Aviv and Israel, and then some huge news coming on in a couple of weeks. To discuss the big announcement for Israel Lacrosse is the head of Israel Lacrosse, Scott Neiss. Scott, how you doing out there?
Good. How are you, Ari?
Doing great. And before we get to the big news in a few weeks, let's talk about this upcoming week. My understanding is Friday in Tel Aviv, there is a game between the two main squads, Tel Aviv and Jerusalem squads. Tell us a bit about that, how people could get involved and attend the game and watch it.
Sure, absolutely. It's our third of 6 meetings between the two teams, and we're adding Ashkelon and Netanya clubs in July. But right now we've got a little bit of a rivalry going. Tel Aviv's 2-0, so Jerusalem's roaring a little bit for a win. But we play Friday at Park Hayarkon by the baseball field over there at 11 a.m. So it's open to fans. There's no admission or anything like that, and it should be a great atmosphere, good competition.
All right, and how often generally do you have these games throughout the year, these inter-Israel games?
Yeah, about once every 3 weeks or so we have games with our Israel-based players, and we're really, we're only 2 years old, so we have some work to do as far as establishing an adult senior league here. But we're using the support of the American Jewish lacrosse community and basically importing some teams this summer that are going to join the team late. But from January all the way till July, we have a game pretty much every 3-4 weeks locally.
All right, now I want to ask something based on safety issues because the game will be played Friday in Tel Aviv. As we get closer to summer, the weather will be more and more humid. It's humid as it is now in Tel Aviv. And a few months ago in the IFL and the Tackle League, the Rebels and Pioneers played in a game in 100-degree weather. It was the same day that there was a terrible tragedy where a runner in the marathon in Tel Aviv, 30 years old, died. So I'm always concerned with these type of games, the precaution, because even though these are young athletes and they're in great shape, that anything can happen if they're not careful. So talk about precaution that is made regarding the safety of your lacrosse players.
Yeah, of course, and it's something that's of utmost importance. And similar to football, our players wear a lot of equipment, and that with the heat, it wears on you. It's a physical sport, so it's something we keep an eye on the weather, and we'll make a judgment call if we're leading up to a game and the heat's going to be a problem. But as we get closer to the summer, our schedule kind of tinkers, and we have more evening games. We have some early morning games before it gets too hot. And mandatory water breaks is part of the rule book, depending on the heat indexes. It's a common thing in international lacrosse because a lot of the international lacrosse is in the summer. So it's actually in the rule book, and it's something that we take every precaution, and we're not going to let anybody get hurt or let safety be an issue. Obviously, we want good competition, and this is a part of that.
All right, well said, because obviously at the end of the day, as much fun as the sport is and great activity it is, safety is the number one concern. And injury-wise, where does lacrosse compare to other sports? Because in the IFL, there are injuries that happen from time to time. There's been a couple of serious ones. Thank God it is not so often, but I was broadcasting a game live when a good friend of mine basically tore his ACL, a lineman. I've seen a couple other really bad injuries where they've been out of football for years. Do you consider lacrosse to be safe in comparison, safe overall? Tell us the risk involved with playing lacrosse.
Sure. I think it's comparable to other, non-contact sports to a degree. I think for a contact sport, injuries are pretty light. Most injuries are not serious. The most common lacrosse injuries you see are the leg and foot injuries. As you say, the ACL is really the worst of that. But nothing you wouldn't see in soccer or any other sport where you're cutting a lot and using your feet. But for a contact sport, it's a relatively safe sport, and we're proud of that, and we're proud of spreading it and getting kids playing. And it's something that the powers that be in the sport are evaluating every day, and especially with the concussion, the emphasis on concussions and making sure that all the studies on that, making sure that kids are safe. It's the same thing. We're evaluating that just as football is and hockey is and other contact sports. And, we're pretty proud of our track record as far as injuries. But it's funny you say that. Our team captain from Tel Aviv, Jesse Kane, tweaked his ankle a couple of weeks ago in a simulated scrimmage. And, he's been coaching us, on the side, but we're hoping he'll be healthy for the following weekend for our international tournament.
Okay, and with the IFL, I don't keep comparing, but it's interesting because some of the players like Matthew Markman play with the IFL, is involved with lacrosse, etc. In the IFL, they have, I believe, at least 2 medical people on site at all times. If there's an injury, they run out there right away. Is there something similar where you have the precaution if you have to remove a player, if you have to fix something right down the spot? How do you go about doing that if that's what is necessary?
Yeah, I mean, we're lucky. First of all, we've got a lot of Sackler medical students on our squad, so it seems like there's a doctor left and right. We have a team doctor at every game also, and one of our veteran goaltenders, Ruben Dressler, who we found is a longtime doctor. So there's no shortage of good medical minds around our games, and we take all those precautions. But if there is an injury case, we stop the game obviously, and we make sure everyone's okay before we consider proceeding.
All right, now you mentioned a couple of new teams being added. Are we getting to a point, or is there more of an interest from Israeli-born Israelis? Because obviously a lot of lacrosse is played by Americans, especially in the East Coast. They come to Israel and they think lacrosse part of their life is over. Very happy they get a second chance. But what about the Israelis that are born here? What percentage of the players are now Israeli-born Israelis?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't done a great job doing that, and I think the reason is we shifted our gears and our focus a little bit to get younger and focus on the youth, and I think that was a defining moment in our 2-year history here when we said, hey, let's not focus on adult Israelis, making them either good or passionate about the sport. Let's focus on the younger generation and get kids playing, because if they grow up with the sport, they're going to be a lot more passionate about it than any adult will ever be. And I think that speaks for our strategy as far as, hey, we're here for the long haul. This isn't a quick fix. This isn't about starting a club league for us here. Obviously we're proud to represent Israel and Tel Aviv in our clubs internationally, and we do want to get an adult club league here, but the focus really is we got to get kids playing. Otherwise we're not going to be successful in this country.
Right. Yeah, if you look again, you take the IFL, one thing I think they've done, also the basketball, the Super League does this as well. They're very much involved with their youth league. The IFL is a high school league. The Super League has actual 18-year-olds that are on the team and travel with the team. They don't really see playing time, but they like to develop these players and know they're the future of the league. Okay, so that game is Friday between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Let's talk about some very exciting news. I'm going to have you break it here on this program and what's going to occur in a few weeks from now. Tell everybody about those exciting news.
Yeah, absolutely. Next weekend, it's our first club tournament with Tel Aviv Lacrosse Club. We're going internationally to play in the Manchester 8s tournament in Manchester, England. And, we do have a couple of Jerusalem players playing as loners, but we're really proud of this team. And this is very much the best Israel has to offer to compete internationally against English clubs, Belgian clubs, Dutch clubs. We think we're going to fare very well, and we're gunning for a trophy there. So that's next weekend in England, and it's a 3-day tournament, and we'll be playing for 2 of those days. And we think we're going to contend for the title.
All right, so you mentioned 2 of those days. Obviously not playing on Shabbat. How did that work? Did you tell them we're not going to play on Shabbat? They just said, okay, no problem, or did they give you a fight about it? Tell us how that negotiation worked out.
Sure. I mean, we have some religious players on our team, but it's more or less a program policy that we're going to be representative of the country. And, it's a tough thing in lacrosse. Most international tournaments are on the weekend. It's a lot easier with a 10-day or 11-day world championship than a 3-day tournament. But we basically shopped for the right tournament that had both the level of competition we want, and this really is the best that Europe has to offer, and was going to be respectful of our policy. So, from the very start when we contacted the organizers in England, they were accommodating. They they basically we have more Friday games than any other team, and they're rallying most of the local squads to play games, and we're playing a Saturday night game or two under the lights, and some additional games Sunday. But from the start, very accommodating, and on most of the tournaments we have explored, it hasn't been a problem. So it's something that we worried might have been an issue in the international lacrosse community, but it really hasn't. So we're really happy about that.
All right, now before we go to more details, I'm actually going to kiss your ass on this because this is incredible that within 2 years you've organized and arranged a trip to Europe. Most leagues can't really say that. So, call kavod to you on that. Was that something, a goal of yours right at the beginning, that within 2 years I'm going to figure out a way to get Israel Lacrosse to play the tournament in England?
No, it spurred from within. I mean, we went to the European Championship last year, but it was largely, it was a lot of Jewish Americans representing us, and we did have a nice Israeli contingency, and it was a good split. But this was our captains, Jesse Kane and Matthew Markman, who you mentioned before. They both played college lacrosse in the States, and they are really proud of what we've achieved here. As far as on field, we've got a very good team. We think we can compete with U.S. college teams, and we want to show that off. And I don't want to put down our league play here, but taking a team an Israeli team with really almost entirely Israeli-based players to Europe is going to give us that opportunity. So it came from within. It wasn't really on our list of goals. I mean, we have goals as far as where we want to be ranked in the world, and the women's team playing this summer in Canada in the World Cup, and our youth development. But this was something that was really self-grown and homegrown, and I got to give all the credit back to Markman and Kane and the rest of the squad, because they got together and said, we want to do this. We want to play internationally. We want to show that, Israel is a powerhouse in the sport, and we think we're going to do that.
All right, so you mentioned that competitively like to compete with the college teams in the United States, but in this tournament, what is the makeup of these teams? What are they comprised of? Is it older gentlemen, people in college? What type of experience will you guys be looking at in trying to capture this tournament victory?
Sure. It's an open tournament, so it's not restricted to European teams or any age group. I think there's 25 teams coming, and our toughest competition is probably going to be some American-based squads. I know American Revolution is sending 2 teams, and they're all college lacrosse players, active college lacrosse players. So we're hoping that our familiarity with each other is going to be a benefit to us. There's a lot of English teams, and I think they're comprised of mostly university players or players recently out of university. The Dutch are always strong. So it's a good mix. I think we're gonna have a good squad, and I think we're I think we're gonna win the thing. But
awesome.
To compete with these active American college players, I mean, we've got some guys that are in their 30s that haven't played the sport outside of Israel in 7-8 years, and
right.
I think initially there might be a quick period to get acclimated, but I think as soon as we hit the field and we get down to business and do what we do best, we're going to be in good shape.
All right, so one of the things I'm excited about this, I like the confidence. Obviously, if you're going to the tournament, I want you guys to think win, and I don't like people to say, well, we'll see what happens and we'll try. I like that you're honest, that you expect to win, and obviously that's going to increase your chances, that belief. One of the things that was interesting about the landscape of Israel sports, especially Anglo sports, is the women's flag football team. And, I love Jess Sagoskin, Isla Wartowska, all those great girls. But they are they're the highest-ranked Israel national team in the world. They're in the top 5. If you guys win, I believe that makes you number 1. Has that been talked about at all, in all seriousness, comparative to being the number 1 Israeli-ranked team on the planet?
I mean, with our national team, it's definitely a goal. This is a club tournament, and we're not playing as Israel. We're playing as Tel Aviv, and we're doing this for us, and I think there's a certain pride that comes with it. That hey, we're all playing for Israel. We're all happy to put Israel on the map, and when we go to a tournament and we see our flag next to all these other flags, that's I think reward enough to for what we're trying to achieve. That we're there, we're participating is great to start. But internationally, yeah, we definitely have those goals. And the teams from the U.S. and Canada and Australia, these are good teams. Best teams in the world. So to have the opportunity, our women's team is going to the World Cup in July, and our goals are definitely top 5 or better. But it's going to be tough, and we've never played women's lacrosse internationally before. But I think going in with confidence, good coaching, a number of experienced players, there's no reason we can't achieve that.
All right, now you mentioned that you're going representing Tel Aviv. What is the difference in that versus Israel? Why did you go that direction of registration as opposed to having everyone wear Israel on the jerseys?
Yeah, of course. European championships or world championships, we're going to play as Israel. This is a club tournament, so we're going to be playing against club teams from Manchester Uni and American Revolution. These aren't national teams, so we want to represent and be consistent with kind of the other clubs in the tournament. This isn't like the best team from England. The England national team is going to be there. We expect there'll be 6 or 7 clubs from England there. So definitely a disparity in the talent, and we'll have games that I think we have weaker competition. We'll have tougher games, we're confident that we're going to be in the upper echelon.
All right, so that sounds very exciting. I want to know, because this is Israel Sports Radio, we're 2 Jews, so let's talk business. The financing of the trip to England, obviously 3 days, you have hotel stays, the flight. That obviously costs money. How was that gone about? Were you able to find sponsors? Did the athletes raise the money themselves? Tell us how financially that worked out.
Yeah, it's been a combination. I mean, it's we're lucky. If you look at our roster for this, we have 13 players, and 12 of them are Israel-based. The 13th was a national team player who played for us in the European championships last year, and he's Manchester-based, and he's been kind enough to let us all stay at his house, so that helped a little bit.
Oh, nice. There you go. Excellent.
I'm not going to lie. When we picked tournament locations, we looked at where affordable flights were, and obviously the EasyJet to Manchester is an attractive option. So, this tournament was well thought out, and a lot of it was sponsored by the association. All the tournament fees were sponsored by the Israel Lacrosse Association. We've got some very good private sponsors to pay for our uniforms and some other things. And, a number of our players privately fundraised, sold T-shirts, had online campaigns to help with the flight expense. But it's really a somewhat affordable weekend to compete internationally. So compared to kind of like a World Cup where we're flying across the pond to North America or somewhere in Europe, and it's a 10 or 11-day trip, this is pretty reasonable for us.
All right, now this is your first tournament outside of Israel in lacrosse. Again, within 2 years, very impressive. Has anyone contacted you, anyone representing Israel government or something on the national sports scene to say, hey, Scott, congratulations on going to England, good luck? Anyone contacted you to show a type of support that made you feel pretty positive?
I mean, we've had a good dialogue with Ayelet, which is the non-Olympic sport here, and, American football is a member, baseball is a member. And we meet with them regularly, and I think it's pretty imminent that we're going to be a member of that organization. But largely, as far as the Anglo sports here or the imported sports here, we're the baby in the room, and we know that, and there's nothing to be ashamed of about that. So, we know where we stand, and really until we increase our participation numbers and our membership and the number of people playing the sport in the country, we don't expect the pats on the back. We're going to go out and earn them. And
very nice.
We know we have our people rooting for us and our friends and our family, but we've got a lot of work to do. There's no doubt about it, and we're committed to doing that work. And like I said, it's all about getting kids playing. So going to a club tournament's all good and well, but we need to get equipment here. We need to get coaches here. We need to get on fields, and we need to get kids playing. Until we do that, we don't really deserve the pat on the back, And I do appreciate it, Ari. I'm proud of what we've achieved here. But like I said, our goals are lofty, and we've got a long road ahead of us.
All right. So the tournament is in a week from this weekend. It's in England. And a couple of moments with you before we let you go. Obviously, you're very busy in preparation for the tournament. If people want to participate in donation, supporting Israel Lacrosse, tell us how they're able to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Our website's israellacrosse.com, and there's a Get Involved section there where it's got links on how you can make financial contributions. Anyone that's new to the sport that wants to play, come down Friday or email us, just on the website, email us, and we'll bring equipment for you and let you try it out. It's really a great sport, whether you're new to the sport or you just want to try it or you just want to see it. We're all very friendly, and so our website's got all that information.
All right, so good stuff there. And after this tournament, after this club tournament, are there any particular plans on more tournaments down the road? Any goals set for the rest of the year? What you guys would like to do?
We do. I got another shocker for you on this. We're going to be playing our first ever home international in July.
All right.
And Turkey's coming here, and we've secured the Ashkelon Municipal Stadium. So in early July, we have Israel versus Turkey, and we're hoping to get a big crowd for that. And that's really, as far as doing stuff in our country, we're really proud of that, and proud of we went to Turkey last year to play them, and they're returning the favor and coming and visiting us. So we're excited about that. Obviously our league play this summer in July, it heats up. We'll have our national championship in late July, and our women's team going to the World Cup in Toronto is something we're very proud of. So we hope we're going to raise some eyebrows there, but a lot going on, obviously, but as far as this weekend, we've got the horse blinders on. We're focused on going to get a trophy.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I know this is right on the air. We're going to talk perhaps in July. Israel Sports Radio and Israel Lacrosse can arrange somehow to broadcast the games so people in the United States, family, friends can listen. So that's something we might have to talk down the road. I did not know that there would be a tournament locally in July, so we'll have to be in touch about that. That, of course, is a couple months down the road. So the website is israellacrosse.co.il. Scott, good luck to you guys this weekend on the Friday game. Good luck to both teams. Then good luck to you guys in England and a week after that. And good stuff. Again, very impressive within the first 2 years. You're able to get this accomplished. I know it's not just yourself. It's a lot of people behind the scenes, a lot of the players. So congratulations to all you guys putting lacrosse really on the map here in Israel.
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me again.
All right, be well out there. We'll speak with you soon.
See you later.
All right, that was Scott Neiss, who is of Israel Lacrosse, head of Israel Lacrosse. That was great to hear. I had no idea that there will be a home tournament in July. So very exciting stuff. Lacrosse is a lot of fun to watch and play. And anyone who is not too familiar with it, all you need to know is Jim Brown, as in Cleveland Browns' greatest running back of all time, Jim Brown, played lacrosse at Syracuse in college. Many people say he was the greatest lacrosse player ever to live. So if anyone's thinking lacrosse is not such a physical sport, check it again. Jim Brown wouldn't have done something that was not so physical. So good to hear from Scott. We're going to take a commercial break. We'll have more on the other side. Obviously, we're going to have Adam Bagni in about 7 minutes from now, so that'll be a lot of fun. Catch up with Adam. He's got a great gig with NBC. We'll talk about the NBA playoffs, Kobe Bryant's contract, if he's going to return or not. We'll talk about that. And Kevin Garnett, perhaps it's his swan song. Perhaps he's all done. So that's on the other side of this commercial break. We hope everyone's enjoying the program so far. This is Louis Live.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Hey folks, Kagan here. As you know, I'm always staying on top of the fitness world, keeping up with current trends. One form of exercise that's been around for ages and is currently being rediscovered is suspension bodyweight training. So if you're looking for a way to get in shape, improve your health, and train your body to move in new ways, then the X1 by Israel Gym Systems is for you. Find out more on our website at www.israelgym.com or look for our page on Facebook, Israel Gym Systems X1. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed frequent flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Schutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Terry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.israelgym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
All right, we'll be right back with Adam Bagni from NBC after this commercial break. Check out the Israel Sports Radio store by clicking on the store tab on IsraelSportsRadio.com. Great items such as T-shirts, hats, books, and much, much more. Again, IsraelSportsRadio.com/store. This is Louis live on IsraelSportsRadio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Hey folks, Kagan here. As you know, I'm always staying on top of the fitness world, keeping up with current trends. One form of exercise that's been around for ages and is currently being rediscovered is suspension bodyweight training. So if you're looking for a way to get in shape, improve your health, and train your body to move in new ways, then the X1 by Israel Gym Systems is for you. Find out more on our website at www.israelgym.com or look for our page on Facebook, Israel Gym Systems X1. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Schutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Terry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.israelgym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Back here on Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio. Our thanks to our first two guests, Joe Robbins, discussing the aftermath of Floyd Mayweather's dominant victory over Robert the Ghost Guerrero. And then we had on Scott Neiss of Israel Lacrosse, discuss Israel's big tournament coming up in a week from this weekend in England. And, of course, there's a local game this Friday in Tel Aviv, between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. For more information, you can check out israellacrosse.co.il. Great news to hear the progress of Israel Lacrosse. And there will be a home tournament occurring in July where Turkey will travel to Israel to play the team, and that is very exciting stuff. So Scott has done a tremendous job. On the line right now to discuss the NBA playoffs, Kobe Bryant's pending contract with the Lakers, and perhaps the end of the Celtics as we know it, is our good friend. We've not spoken to him in a long time. It's great to have him back on the program, Adam Bagni. Adam, how you doing out there?
Hey, guys, I'm doing good. How are you?
We're doing wonderful, and it's great to have you back on. And let's just get right into it. This has been a talk here, actually, in Israel. A lot of fans of American basketball have come up to me and said, what do you think will happen with the Lakers and Kobe Bryant next season? He's due to make $30.5 million. If the Lakers use amnesty and get him off the books, it will save the Lakers if you factor in luxury tax about $80 to $90 million. It's hard to see Kobe Bryant not in a Lakers uniform. What do you think happens at the end of the day with Kobe Bryant and the Lakers?
Well, I think at the end of the day, he's going to be back. The question is, how do they get there? Is basically what it comes down to. Like you said, I think the amnesty clause is a very good possibility at this point. I think Kobe knows that it's a very good possibility at this point. But that being said, could you see that contract retooled? Could, if negotiations completely fall apart, could they actually pay that $30 million? It's possible. Either way, Kobe's going to be back in a Lakers uniform. There's no reason to fret if you're a Laker fan, and a reason to be sad if you're a Celtic fan, because he's going to be back. There's no doubt about it. The team still thinks that he's got a couple of years remaining, and he obviously, we saw what he did this year before he got hurt. He's still got the skills. So Kobe's going to be back. It's going to be a question of, though, how are they going to get there?
All right, now, Kobe Bryant, in your eyes, comes back. When the timetable, I mean, that injury at the beginning looked devastating. People thought he might not come back ever. Obviously, as I wrote on Facebook, anyone who said that doesn't know Kobe Bryant, we've heard talks that he may be back at the beginning of the season. What's your guess on when Kobe Bryant returns to basketball?
I mean, I think that's a little bit optimistic. Again, where he got hurt, I mean, that's a very sensitive area there in the foot. And his age, too, he's not a young buck either. So from everything that I've heard, his goal is to be back at the beginning of the season. I think we'll see him back in the first quarter of the season, but I wouldn't expect him back the first game of the year. But it is Kobe Bryant. Like you said, this guy is a competitor. He could care less, by the way, about personal stats at this point. All he wants is another championship. And like I said, he will be back, though, in the early part of next season, but I don't know if he'll be ready yet on the first day of the year.
Of course, if he gets the title number 6, that's when really the Jordan comparisons will come. Jordan 5 MVPs to 1. Kobe, though, very decent chance of being the all-time leading scorer. He's about 6,000 points shy of Jabbar. One of the things I think because of this injury, I don't know the best way to say it, but it took attention away of the fact that the Lakers did not have such a good season. They just made the playoffs. Mike D'Antoni was rattled for his style. They said did not fit the Lakers. I kind of feel had Kobe not gotten injured, they would have still been knocked out of the first round, and Mike D'Antoni may have lost his job. So what are your thoughts going into next season? Is Kobe going to put up with Mike D'Antoni for another year, or is he going to ask the ownership of the Lakers to bring in somebody else?
Well, first of all, I think the Jabbar thing's not going to happen. He's not going to get there for a couple of reasons. The first of which, Kobe has said publicly that he is not going to be a guy that hangs around and averages 15 points a game, which, by the way, 15 points a game in the NBA, that's still a pretty decent career.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
But Kobe has said, unless he's sort of that dominating force averaging mid-20 some odd points a game, he's not going to stick around. And in addition to that, Kobe's matured a lot. He tries to get his teammates involved a lot more. I know some games he'll drop 40 when he feels like he needs to, and he does that. But he involves his teammates a bit more, so you're not going to see him, putting up another 80-point game in his career or something like that. So I think for those reasons alone, he won't catch Jabbar. But as far as Mike D'Antoni, I mean, his system, the issues are it just didn't gel, obviously, with Pau Gasol and with Dwight Howard. And Dwight Howard, the way that he played this year just was, frankly, not up to snuff. I don't think he could handle the LA pressure. I don't think he was as aggressive at times. And I don't think he played well with an alpha male like Kobe Bryant. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how it all sort of plays out. Remember, Mike D'Antoni, he's all about offense. D'Antoni's never been a defensive coach. So it'll be interesting to see how the whole thing plays out. But Dwight Howard, I think, really is the center of angst this year, for sure, for the Lakers.
And speaking of the big fella, he gets to decide where he wants to go. He says, talk about Lakers, it sounds like that's where he's headed to come back. Your thoughts? Do Lakers get the big man back in the middle for another run? Dwight, by the way, he's been in the league for so long because he came out of high school in 2004, but he's 27 years old, has a lot of basketball left. So what do you think will happen with Dwight Howard next season?
Yeah, that's it. A lot of basketball left. See, I don't think he's back for the reasons that I mentioned. I think the LA pressure and the media folks that he had to deal with were difficult. I think he didn't gel great with Kobe Bryant. I think his attitude again was called into question. Wouldn't he be a great fit for a medium contender in a small market like? And I'm not saying that this works from a salary cap perspective, but how about a team like Houston? I think he'd be a good fit somewhere like that. Milwaukee. I don't know if Milwaukee could afford him under the cap, but somewhere a team like that, he would be a great fit, a big man in a small market like that. And you wonder. I bet you he likes. There's many aspects of the LA life that he likes, but I wonder if he wishes there were some days that he never made that jump.
Yeah, you can kind of see it. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, because when he was on the floor, many times he was absent-minded during games because he was the fourth option. He was behind Kobe Bryant.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, behind Kobe.
And then it didn't work, and it didn't work with Pau. That's the big thing. Pau Gasol. Think about all those years that Pau has been a contributor with Kobe Bryant and their championship runs and him burning the Celtics many times as a Celtics fan and someone who covers them, seeing them gel together, and to see Pau on the bench for long stretches, getting 2 boards a game in some cases, it just did not fit. And that's another question: what happens to Pau? They definitely both won't be back in LA. So that'll be interesting to see as the off season sort of comes upon us.
One of the things at the beginning of the season, I bought into the Lakers Kool-Aid. I thought they would make a run in the NBA Finals. I know I wasn't alone there, but the criticism was perhaps maybe there's just not enough basketballs for all these guys. There's only one basketball on the floor, and that, I think, was a part of the problem as well. Now let's go to the Eastern Conference and talk about your Celtics. Very emotional moment when Kevin Garnett walks off the court. Doc Rivers hugs him and says he loves him. Is Kevin Garnett done? Are we not going to see him back in the NBA, or will we see him but in a different uniform other than the Boston Celtics?
It certainly felt like it, didn't it, when he walked off, and it's amazing, and it shows how great the fans are in Boston. Not to be a homer, but the folks in Boston, for them in a blowout game to be losing like that in such a crushing fashion, really, to our arch rival, and to give him a standing ovation walking off the floor, I thought that was incredible.
Yeah.
But I really don't think it's over. This could go 2 ways. It could go completely the opposite way. Doc could be gone. KG could call it a career, and Pierce could end up on the trading block. A lot of people think those or a combination of them will happen. I think the exact opposite. I think KG is going to be back. I think Paul Pierce is going to be back. I think Doc's going to be back. Why? These guys are so tight with each other, and they they've taken on this saying called Ubuntu, which is it's an African saying meaning family, talking about family. And these guys really, really care about each other. They love the city of Boston. Boston loves them back. Now, if you're a Celtics fan, are you going to compete for another title with Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and a Jason Terry who's definitely not Ray Allen? Probably not. But there's mixed feelings there. There's, the great memories of them making the run in 2008, coming up just a couple points short the following year in Game 7 of the Lakers. So surprisingly, I think we've been saying they've been old. How long have we been saying they've been old? For years now.
Exactly.
But I think the old crew is going to be back for at least one more year. That's my prediction of it.
Well, see, it's funny you bring that up because in 2010, after they lost in 7 games to the Lakers, people thought that was the end. Doc Rivers looked like wasn't coming back, and Paul Pierce was going to go, and everything looked like that was it. And here we are 3 years later, talk about now is this it? I want to go a couple of legacy issues if they end up not coming back, or even if they do come back, their legacy. Kevin Garnett, Hall of Famer. He goes in as a Celtic, right? Even though most of his points and stats were with Minnesota.
Oh, without a doubt. And he's talked about how things are different in Boston. And him and Ray, a few years back when the Celtics got eliminated, I want to say it was last year, actually, when the Celtics lost Game 6 at home to the Heat, and then they had to go back, and obviously they lost in Miami. The Celtics had 2 chances to close it out at home and then Game 7 on the road. After Game 6, all right, so the Celtics lose at home. They really wanted to close it out against Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals, get to another championship. The fans start cheering and chanting to beat Miami, and the game is over. The Celtics are about to lose. And I can remember Kevin Garnett, after that game, along with Ray Allen, at a joint press conference saying, that was unbelievable. What we just witnessed, you'll never see anything like that in a lot of sports cities. And Garnett has really he's become a symbol of Boston. Every game before the game, he's pounding his chest with that Boston lettering on it. So I think, without a doubt, he considers himself a Celtic great, and the city has really just embraced him since the first day he got here.
And Kevin Garnett, to be honest with you, at the beginning of his career, I did not like him so much, partly because he got that big contract at 21 years old, which is not his fault.
Yeah.
But my thinking was he didn't deserve the money, and I didn't like him as a result. But since he's got to the Celtics, to not like Kevin Garnett, even if you have to play against him or root for a team against him, is just not fair. The guy has so much emotion and heart into the game. It is beautiful. And I want to you talk about him and Ray Allen. At the beginning of this season, when Ray came with the Miami Heat and they played against the Celtics, he went to bump fists with Doc Rivers, the other players of the Celtics. They gave him a bump, but Kevin Garnett ignored him. Is that real? Is that for show? Is it still like that? Did Kevin Garnett feel a betrayal because not only did Ray leave, but he went to the enemy in Miami?
Oh, it's 100% real. 100% real, and he's like that with everybody. In fact, Garnett, while he is respected by a lot of players across the league, he is not necessarily liked by a lot of players across the league. I mean, even in his age now, he's very savvy. He knows how to throw an elbow. He knows how to get in a guy's face. He's been one of the biggest trash talkers in the league. You remember earlier this season, he got Carmelo so riled up that Carmelo ended up in the tunnel at the end of the game trying to get in Garnett's face on the Celtics buff.
Right.
So, Garnett is a guy that plays with this sort of intense, crazy passion. I mean, you hate to say it, you just watch the camera zoom in on him. Anytime he makes a big defensive play or bucket, he's dropping F-bombs left and right. I mean, that's how he is, and he plays with that intensity. And that's why he's been such a good defensive player for all these years. And that's why the Celtics this year were arguably the best defensive team in the NBA. Even looking at their series against the Knicks, they just couldn't get any offense going at all. I mean, they're keeping the Knicks to high 80s, low 90s points. They just didn't get it done on the offensive end. They went super cold. But without a doubt, and a lot of people don't think that's true, it is 100% real. He's just a guy that plays with that sort of intensity. And that makes it even more difficult. We talk about Kobe, and we talk about Paul Pierce, and we talk about Garnett. These are guys that the city identifies with. How do you get rid of Kobe Bryant? How can you get rid of Kevin Garnett? Ownership struggles with that, and fans struggle with that, even though they're on the back nine.
And let's talk about that Knicks series because obviously these are two cities that have a storied rivalry in more baseball than anything else. But obviously the two cities fight with each other. They don't like each other. But I thought some of the players on the Knicks did act in bad taste, dressing up as a funeral because this
right.
We're going to bury the Celtics tonight. What do you consider to happen with the Boston Marathon? How was that perceived in Boston? Was they crossed the line, or was the feeling they're just trying to hype themselves up for a big playoff game?
Well, I don't think anybody really made the connection as far as the Boston Marathon. I just think people thought it was in poor taste because they were being too cocky. And as J.R. Smith said after the game, we went to a funeral and we were the ones that got buried. and they did not look too good whatsoever. But I think you saw it, too, in Game 6. The Celtics scored 20 straight points. I mean, they still weren't dead to the end there. But that was poorly received just because people thought they were too cocky. But the bottom line is the Celtics lost the series not because they didn't play great defense, because they did, not because of the funeral garb, but because they were just awful on the offensive end of the floor. And, they couldn't buy a bucket for large stretches. And they just went – the NBA's a game of runs. And the Celtics just went too cold for too long of multiple stretches of time in order to win the series, and that's what happened.
All right, now, one of the things next year that the Celtics can look forward to, Rondo, I mean, what's Rondo's health? We expect Rondo to come back, play at the same level as he did before, because the last couple of years, he's probably been the best player on the Celtics. Maybe not the emotional leader, not the captain, but the guy who really ran the show. Pete Shepard of WEEI thought Rondo was going to be the MVP this year. Obviously, he didn't know he'd be injured. So talk about Rondo, and will that have an effect on keeping this core group together?
Well, without a doubt, the interesting thing is Rondo has become more of a leader. And think about how difficult that is to be a leader when you have a guy like Paul Pierce, who's been there since the beginning of his career, who is the captain of the team. And then you have Kevin Garnett, who we already talked about, is just this crazy, emotional, just a player that there's fire in his belly constantly. It's difficult to be a leader on that team. But Rajon Rondo has learned, particularly in the last 2 years, about how to speak up. And he's really doing those things. And his teammates say, look, Rondo's been the leader. Doc Rivers has said that Rondo has the best vision of any basketball player that he's ever been around. Now, Doc Rivers played with some unbelievable players, played against some unbelievable players. He's coached some unbelievable players. So for him to say something like that, that means something. And the vision, though, that he has had and has shown in some of those highlight reel passes and behind the back and that, the fake one way and going the other way, it's been very, very impressive. Some people actually claim that Rondo is selfish, that Rondo is just looking for the assists rather than points. And he said, I mean, come on, guys, if I'm selfish, you shoot the ball, you don't pass it. So he's the type of guy that if you're Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, you're loving him because they're a little bit older. They don't get up and down the floor as much as they want. And this kid isn't young and selfish. He's about passing the basketball, and the plays that he calls on the floor have really been remarkable. There was actually a little bit of argument here in Boston for a brief period of time that the Celtics were better off without Rajon Rondo. A lot of people, I thought that was ridiculous. So did many other people, and we will prove that when the playoffs come. But we do expect him to be back early next season, probably for the beginning of the season, and he will have a big impact as he should.
All right, and last question about the Celtics. Paul Pierce, one of the things I don't know if people realize this or not, but he is in the top 3 of most all-time Celtics categories, if not number 1 in a couple. Scoring-wise, he has more points than Larry Bird. He is behind Havlicek. I'm not sure if he will catch him. We'll have a chance. But, I don't know, 10 years from now, do we say Bill Russell, Larry Bird, Paul Pierce, or is Paul Pierce just a little bit under because he never won an MVP award and he only won that one title? So give us your thoughts on Paul Pierce's legacy as a Celtic.
It's tough, because he's going to have a lot of those numbers. And part of that is because, he has been with the organization his entire career.
Right.
There were a lot of lean years, even in the years with Antoine Walker, where Paul Pierce was called on to drop in 30 a game. And so there were quite a few years when he was, at the tops of the Eastern Conference in scoring. I'm thinking Rick Pitino head coach years, and the Celtics were, at the bottom of the conference, at the bottom of the Atlantic Division. But I think Paul Pierce is going to be remembered. What he's going to be remembered for is loyalty, the fact that he stayed here so long, the fact that he was a good leader, the fact that they finally broke through when they gave him a little bit of help,
right?
And the fact that he did it against the Lakers, I think means something. It's a shame that if you're a Celtics fan, it's a shame that they couldn't get through against LA the second time. And for Paul Pierce's legacy, 2 titles is a big difference in one.
Right.
But I think when we look back, Bill Russell is always going to help. Bill Russell, Larry Bird, those guys are always going to have a special place in Celtics fans' memories. But I think he is like right behind them in front of some other Celtics greats. I think at the end of the day, I think Paul Pierce will be remembered a little bit more of an elite player compared to guys like Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish, and maybe even John Havlicek, who are all Hall of Famers. So he's going in the Hall of Fame. Is he Larry Bird? Is he Bill Russell? No. But is he going to be remembered as a top 5 Celtic of all time? I don't think there's any question.
And not bad for a guy who slipped to 10th in the 1998 NBA draft. 9 teams kicking themselves that they picked, that they did not pick him. And in the 98 draft, there were some players.
And he went to Kansas. Come on, guys.
Yeah, there should have been a big star there. People should have noticed him, and he shouldn't have slipped to 10th. But that obviously is what happened. I want to go to the.
You know what? He has an ugly shot too. That's the other thing about Paul Pierce. He's a very blue collar. Every shot I think he's putting in the NBA has been ugly. He doesn't have the Paul Pierce, the Ray Allen jump shot, and he doesn't have the Kevin Garnett one step to the right, turn around to the left signature move. He's just a grind it out kind of player, and but that style's worked out very well for him.
It certainly has. By the way, real quickly, some of the players picked ahead of Paul Pierce in that draft. Michael Olowokandi, perhaps the biggest bust of all time, next to Darko Milicic. Robert Traylor, no offense, but he went 6th, didn't deserve to go there. That Rafe LaFrance at number 3. So there were players. Dirk Nowitzki at 9. Okay, that was a pretty good pick. I had you there. But a lot of the GMs got to be kicking themselves regarding that draft. Let's stay in the Eastern Conference. I want to talk about Bulls Miami. This was a great series 2 years ago, and the reigning MVP at the time, Derrick Rose, a part of that. This time around, he's not a part of it. A lot of critics are saying he should be. I've been told that he has been practicing in scrimmages full speed, full blast. He's ready to go. Why is he not in this series, at least up to this point?
Well, not only has he been practicing full speed, he's been practicing at full speed with the team in scrimmages, in full practice for months. Basically, he has clearance, from what I've heard from the team trainers, from the coaching staff. It's all about him giving the green light. And I think he is very nervous. I think, it's a very serious injury, and he doesn't want to, rush back like a lot of guys have. I think Derrick Rose should be on the floor. I think that you only get so many chances, too, in the NBA playoffs. There's a lot of years when something happens, maybe you get bumped out because your team just has a bad week, maybe you have an injury. You only get so many opportunities, and especially with Chicago getting out of the first round, winning game 1, surprisingly, over the Heat. They could really, really use them. And with every single day that goes and with every single game that's being played, the pressure on him to get in that lineup is just increasing exponentially. And my personal feeling is he should be on the floor. Unless there's something that you and I don't know about, unless the reports out of Chicago are wrong, Derrick Rose should be on the floor, and he should want to be on the floor, because he has a great opportunity here. It's been past a year. Like you said, not just recently he's been practicing with the team for the last couple of months. So I know he's concerned, but from the information that I have, it seems like he should be on the floor. Maybe he's being a little bit too cautious.
All right, now Joakim Noah came out and defended his teammate, but inside the locker room, you've been in plenty of locker rooms throughout the league. I mean, what do you think? Behind closed doors, are they saying, come on, Derrick, we need you, get out there?
No, I think they do back him, and I think they do back him because all those guys know the business. They know that it's cutthroat. They know that these guys need should need to make as much as they can or want to make as much as they can for the time that their careers are going on. And I think guys know what it's like. They see teammates that have gone through similar injuries like that. So I believe that at least most of his teammates, and the way that Noah presented himself in that interview sure seemed like he truly believed what he said, didn't it? You know, I can't speak, again, this is pure speculation because I'm not in the Bulls locker room, you know, every single day. But that being said, I think most of his teammates do have his back. Whether that is the right call or not, if you're a fan or if you're in Bulls management, you know, that remains to be seen. And that I disagree with. But I think that Noah definitely had his back, and I think that Derrick Rose maybe is just being a little bit too caught. We've heard too much from his brother over the last couple months than we have from Derrick. So.
Yeah, I think his brother's speaking a little too much. You got to let the former MVP speak. All right, we cannot do a basketball segment without talking about LeBron James. Wins his 4th MVP in the last 5 years before the age of 30, so he will have a chance of catching Jabbar in the MVP race, but does not win it unanimously. I was talking about throughout the entire season, is this the year we finally have a unanimous choice for MVP in NBA? It's never happened before. Shaq was close in 2000, 1 vote short. That went to Allen Iverson. This year, LeBron is 1 vote short, goes to Carmelo Anthony, who wasn't even second place overall. That went to Kevin Durant. Was he robbed of being voted unanimously winning the MVP this season?
I think it's overblown. I think you could care less. You know, and the vote is Gary Washburn of the Boston Globe. That tells you something, right? Gary Washburn's probably like a hero to a lot of Celtics fans for not voting for LeBron. But then again, he voted for Carmelo.
Right.
But you know, I don't think that's a huge deal to him. I mean, you're the most valuable player. Should it have been unanimous? Yeah. And Gary Washburn actually put together a pretty decent column. I say decent because I disagree with it, but he put together, it was a well-written column giving a fair opinion that it should be Carmelo. But I think anybody who looks at it objectively, you know, LeBron should have been the MVP. Yes, he should have been the unanimous MVP. Is it a huge deal? I don't think it is to LeBron, and I don't think it is to many other people besides, you know, talking heads like me and you who like to, you know, bring it up on TV and on radio.
Well, look, I still to this day remember Fred Hickman from CNN. It was 13 years ago, and who voted for Allen Iverson in 2000. And sometimes I think these guys do that, so then their name gets mentioned. I sometimes think that's part of the appeal. And at the end of the day, there is a human bias involved. MVP is a hard term to define because the most valuable player is not necessarily best player. And I can hear some argument for Carmelo Anthony. Without him, the Knicks maybe don't make the postseason, maybe the 7th seed. I still thought LeBron was, without question, the MVP. Adam, this was so much fun. It's been too long since we had you on the show. Great stuff as always. We'll have to do it again soon. And thank you so much for being on Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Always appreciate talking to you, and hello to all my friends out there. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Adam. Be well. We will speak with you soon. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
All right, Adam Bagni getting it done. Great stuff. Give it the information regarding there's just so many fun stuff there, talking about how Derrick Rose needs to be on the court, talking about how real Kevin Garnett is. That situation where he did not bump fists with Ray Allen at the beginning of the year, that was not fake. That was not some dramatized thing for the cameras and for the media. That was real Kevin Garnett expressing his dislike at the traitor of Ray Allen leaving Boston to join the evil Miami Heat in South Beach. But keep in mind, and this is what I said when this occurred, Ray Allen was on the trade block for a few years in Boston. Very close to be traded for O.J. Mayo. I don't have such a problem with him going to Miami. It's kind of an FU to the Celtics. It's a stab in the back, but I thought he was stabbing the back first, so I didn't have a problem with that. But Kevin Garnett did, and Kevin Garnett was the guy sitting on the bench not shaking Ray Allen's hand, and it wasn't me. So that is what happened at the end of the day. We're going to take a real quick commercial break. On the other side, the director of Split Decision, Brin-Jonathan Butler. This is Lewis Live, and this is IsraelSportsRadio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Hey folks, Kagan here. As you know, I'm always staying on top of the fitness world, keeping up with current trends. One form of exercise that's been around for ages and is currently being rediscovered is suspension bodyweight training. So if you're looking for a way to get in shape, improve your health, and train your body to move in new ways, then the X1 by Israel Gym Systems is for you. Find out more on our website at www.israelgym.com or look for our page on Facebook, Israel Gym Systems X1. Israel Gym X1, Higia Hazman.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Schutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Harry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.IsraelGym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1, Higia Hazman.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Hey folks, Kagan here. As you know, I'm always staying on top of the fitness world, keeping up with current trends. One form of exercise that's been around for ages and is currently being rediscovered is suspension bodyweight training. So if you're looking for a way to get in shape, improve your health, and train your body to move in new ways, then the X1 by Israel Gym Systems is for you. Find out more on our website at www.israelgym.com or look for our page on Facebook, Israel Gym Systems X1. Israel Gym X1, Higia Hazman.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Schutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Terry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.IsraelGym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Back here on Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio. We are trying to get in touch with Brin-Jonathan Butler. We're having some difficulty, so we will try him right now. If we are not able to get in touch with him, then we will take a break and try during the commercial break to do so. Otherwise, we will have to figure something out. So please bear with us. We're having a little difficulty getting in touch with Brin. Very busy after Rigo's big win a few weeks ago over Donaire. And that put Rigo, if he wasn't already on the map, even more so on the map in mainstream consciousness in the eyes of the casual boxing fan, because very impressive, dominant victory, unanimous decision. All right, on the line right now, the split.
How you doing?
Doing great. On the line right now, the director of Split Decision, Brin-Jonathan Butler. Brin, welcome back to Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio.
Hey, well, I'm glad to be back.
It is certainly great to be back, and let's talk about Rigo's big win over Donaire a few weeks ago. We were speaking off the air that the press has not been so friendly to Rigo in this victory, the biggest victory of his career, in my opinion. Talk about some of the press coverage and how it really hasn't been so kind to Rigo.
Well, it's been really interesting because if you look at Floyd Mayweather's last fight, kind of a similar fight in many respects, just technical genius and yet rather risk-averse. And I think you could make a pretty good argument that Donaire was a much more threatening opponent than Guerrero proved to be for Mayweather. So it's been interesting for me to see what seems to be a pretty glaring double standard in terms of Rigo puts on this clinic against the 2012 Fighter of the Year, basically breaks his face the moment that Donaire is willing to take any risks to sort of bring the fight to Rigo. He out-punches him, lands at a high percentage, and according to myself and people who were calling the fight, I think he won every round except the 10th where he was caught off balance and knocked down. But other than that, 11 out of 12 rounds he won. So just such dominance, and yet there were boos throughout the fight and some real vitriol from people like Dan Raphael at ESPN and some other places. So it's interesting to watch.
What is it that they want out of him? His style is a boxing style. He is great. He's also technical genius, just like Floyd. Not so much of a Mike Tyson knockout in the first round type of the guy, even though he has great punching power. So what is people like Dan Raphael from ESPN, what do they want out of Rigo?
It's really hard to say because, in the Donaire fight, within 45 seconds after Donaire tasted Rigo's power, he was aware that if he made a mistake, he was going to lose. So he became very limited, and the irony of the fight was that the so-called amateur with Rigo made Donaire look like a rank amateur. Donaire had no ability to create a plan B, let alone a plan C or a plan D, in order to address that he was dealing with somebody who had faster hands, I think showed more power, and just controlled the tempo of the fight for every second of the fight, other than that knockdown in the 10th round. That was kind of, getting into a clinch and turned him around and just caught Rigo off balance for a second. I don't know. I don't want to say it was dirty, but it was somewhere in between dirty and crafty. So, I don't know what. I guess, kind of like with Floyd, people see the technical genius, and they want him to sort of put his foot on the pedal and take these guys out right away. But I don't understand why they can be criticized. I mean, there's Willie Pep, who famously fought an entire round without throwing a punch and won that round. Are we that far gone from appreciating the kind of things that people like Floyd and Rigo do in the ring to not respect their style? And it seems that we've moved away from it, so that you're expected to brawl. Like that's the expectation now. If you're not brawling and risking being knocked out every round, you're kind of selling out in some respect. So I don't understand it, frankly.
All right, now considering that Donaire was the more popular fighter, more known fighter, mentioned 2012 Fighter of the Year, and there was the knockdown in the 10th, was there some nervous energy when it went to the judges that somehow they might try to screw over Rigo and give it to Donaire?
Absolutely. I would guess. I mean, I was ringside watching the fight, and I would estimate maybe 1% of the fans that were there were in support of Rigo, maybe less. I think there were 6,000 fans there. I'd say about 95% were Donaire. 4 to 4.5% were sort of, hey, there's a fight at Radio City Music Hall for the second time in 82 years. This should be a fun thing to do on Saturday. And then about 7 Cuban fans who I'm not even sure they paid for their ticket. Maybe they were friends of the promoters who were all Miami Cubans. But, I mean, there was nobody there for Rigo. And probably half the Cubans who showed up won't go to his next fight because I mean, he just does not please a crowd. And even away from the fight and promoting it, I'm doing a film of this guy's backstory of everything that I find, completely compelling as far as his narrative just to come to the United States. But he won't go near it in the press. I mean, as far as he'll go is, he'll say it's painful. But, I mean, he refuses to learn English. That's going to lose you, 75% of the boxing audience right there,
right.
50% of it maybe. So he just doesn't really want to reach out to sort of connect and get people excited about his work. So yeah, the judging is always an issue just because this is a game where money is the bottom line, and there's been some pretty terrible decisions of late where it seems that fighters who are less commercially viable get the short end of the stick, such as Rigo's countryman Yerslandi Lara, who I scored at 10-2 when he fought Paul Williams, and it was a lopsided decision the other way. So it's always dangerous with judges.
Now, do you think, even despite that there is corruption in the sport, just a little bit, that they saw the dominance of Rigo? It was so technically genius, as we talked about, that they just had to give it to him, even though it might be better financially for boxing if Donaire wins the fight. Well, I mean, he outpunched him, he outlanded him, and he landed by far the more impressive blows throughout the fight. It looked like he crushed Donaire's orbital bone in the latter rounds. And he just dictated the pace and the tempo of the fight. I mean, he just shut Donaire down the entire fight and made him look clumsy and off balance. And again, we were talking about the prejudice of the press. The press, mainly who'd picked Donaire, who was quite a heavy favorite, basically said, oh, this was Donaire's worst fight as a professional. This was the most unprepared Donaire we've ever seen. This was the most out-of-shape Donaire we've ever seen. So Rigo just gets no credit. No credit for applying his craft and taking it seriously, which is exactly what I saw. I think Rigo could have fought Donaire in his first fight and done this. His manager said to me that Rigo has not learned one thing since he's been to the United States, which is a frightening prospect. Right. So if you just think if had he learned a little more, if he learns now what he can do. Marvin Hagler, a great middleweight champion in the 80s, was told by Joe Frazier, you have 3 strikes against you. You're black, you're good, and you're a southpaw. Rigo has a couple of strikes, one of them being that he's good. I don't know what type of fighter or who's going to fight him in the future after he tore up Donaire, the 2012 Fight of the Year. Is anyone willing to fight this guy at this point?
Well, yeah, and I mean the Cold War between Golden Boy and Top Rank is not going to help matters. I mean, Donaire turned down $3 to $4 million to fight Mares, and now Mares actually put on a great fight against Ponce de Leon on the Mayweather undercard. So that would probably be the biggest fight out there for Rigo. I can't see those 2 promotional companies coming together to make it happen. And Rigo can't make less than he did for Donaire, which was $750,000. So that's a tough proposition when you can't sell tickets to an arena, you can't sell pay-per-view, you can't sell even if it's on HBO. So you need an opponent, and the best way to go with that would be a Mexican opponent. I mean, it seems as if the audience has shifted drastically towards the Hispanic market, except that's not the Cuban Hispanic market. The Cubans in Florida just do not support boxing any more than they support baseball. So this is a hard one with those numbers that Rigo in his contract has to get at least $750,000 to see how you could make a fight like this make sense to anybody putting up the money to show it on TV, pay-per-view, or a venue.
All right, so even though he gets this impressive victory, probably the best victory of his career is still up in the air of where he's going to go, and it's still a bit in turmoil, would you say? Or is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I mean, these guys, the first thing he did after this victory was go out and buy a Bentley. And, it's a little scary to me that you would come from where he did, living in a little duplex in pretty average neighborhood of Havana to, making your first million with this fight. Cumulatively with all the fights he had, including this one, he's made over $1 million in the U.S. And boy, put it towards a Bentley. It's scary where this guy can end up, because if he loses, I think everybody, even who's promoting him, is going to, Top Rank does not like him. They were really putting him in there with Donaire, as they did before against Marroquin, his previous fight, to get him out of there, because they are losing money with somebody like him. He just does not sell tickets. Bob Arum after the fight said, the only way that we can promote this guy is if Fidel Castro comes over from Cuba and helps me co-promote. You never hear promoters saying things like this. Like, how can you get on his back about how, where do I go next? I don't know how to do this. After the guy has just schooled, the best fighter of last year in the entire world in terms of what Donaire accomplished. It's a really strange situation.
All right, so even though he's just made over $1 million and he's at this probably the best point in his career as far as stature, is he kind of forgot about his family in Cuba? Has he stopped sending them money? Does he send them a little bit? How is he taking care of his family at this point?
Well, he claims in the promotional material for the fight that he did for HBO, he had some recent photographs of his son, and says he talks to his son every week, and says he does send money. I can't say definitively one way or the other, how much he's sending, if he's sending money, because I don't really know where that money is coming from, given that he's had a hard time holding on to it. There's been a lot of drama outside the ring and legal battles with his management. All of that money that he's putting out there for that kind of thing, it's on him to pay it back.
Right.
So how much money is there to spare to send back to the family? And I've also noticed that he's sort of stopped referring to his family, plural, and a lot more about his son. This is his son, this is his son. But I don't know what happened to his wife of 13 years, because she's the one looking after him. So that seems like a weird shift.
It's starting to sound like, and obviously you're seeing this up close, but it's starting to sound like there's a very good chance that Rigo ends up broke, even though he's made over $1 million. It happens to boxers when they make $80, $100 million, but this is a guy that doesn't really have a business background or any type of financial planning. I think it sounds like he gets money, he spends it. What are the odds that Rigo's going to end up broke?
I think the odds are always good if you're going to bet on boxers ending up being broke. I would never take a bet against anybody who'd say, hey, this champion's probably going to end up broke. Because, yeah, I mean, when you consider how much of these guys' wages are taken away from the people who are around them, yeah. And that the same sort of mentality that allows them to do something as insane as getting up in a ring against the most elite fighters in the world is also that mentality that can be very detrimental in terms of the investments you make.
Right.
Because you can assume, the guy's almost 33, he could assume, I'm going to be the next Bernard Hopkins. I'm going to fight for another 15 years or something and continue to make this kind of money. But how likely is that? Well, there's only been one Bernard Hopkins, and Bernard Hopkins, who's never been a ticket seller, sells a hell of a lot more tickets than Rigo does. So
also, it's possible Bernard Hopkins may have gotten some type of outside help where he was, extra focused in his 40s.
I think his renewed focus is a very admirable element of his success.
And we've talked about this off the air, but I want you to say this on the air. To your knowledge, you've never seen Rigo use any performance-enhancing drugs. This is all natural, God-given talent that he's displayed in the ring.
Well, with Rigo, I mean, we've talked about this off the air, and in my opinion, every elite athlete, again, it's another bet I would never take with anybody if they said, I bet that guy's taking stuff. If anybody is not taking it, it would be Rigo, because he has been at the top of his game forever. He has been like this since he was 14, and there's never been a lull. There's never been body transformation. He's been at the same weight forever. And every strength and conditioning coach that I've talked to who's worked with him has just said this guy is like nobody I've ever seen. So if anybody's doing it naturally and is dedicated and is just, this is a freak of nature. And I think certainly his technical acumen in the ring shows the kind of focus and devotion he's had. He has a better chance than just about anybody else I can think of that this is natural. They've always vehemently denied everybody associated with him that he's ever used on and off the record. They've denied it. And Rigo complied with Donaire's very stringent testing with VADA and USADA, and there was never a hassle whatsoever. I've never heard any innuendo that he's used.
We're speaking with Brin-Jonathan Butler, the director of Split Decision, the story of Guillermo. And in regards to Guillermo Rigondeaux, is this going to be a fighter that will end up having to appreciate maybe a few years after his career is over, when we look back and say, this guy's a gold medal winner, champion, never lost, dominance of great, great fighters. Too bad we didn't appreciate him more while he was active in the fight game.
Yeah, I could easily see that. I mean, I think it was fascinating to me. He does have a very vocal following of, I think, people, I guess they're called purists about boxing, and they take to the internet and Twitter and Facebook and attack anybody who criticizes them to say, you're an idiot if you can't appreciate this guy's genius. But what I notice is that all of these advocates are the kind of people who don't spend money to
Right.
appreciate somebody like Rigo. So it's well and good to defend him, and I mean, it's the same case I've been making on his behalf in print, in the film, all over the place. I agree with it entirely. But I also just see if he's interested in making money, he has to make some big changes, inside and outside of the ring. I mean, if he wants to he could coast and win for another 3 or 4 years like this against elite competition. Will it win him more fans? Probably not. So down the road, I think people will look back at him and certainly say, I mean, this is him against Donaire at pushing 33. What could he have been if we'd seen him from 20 to 30?
Right.
To me, he just, we mentioned it last time on the show. He has the same skill set as Mayweather, except he can punch, and he doesn't have any hand injuries. He's never had any injuries. So, what a freakish prospect that is to have had him in his prime fighting the pro game.
All right, last few minutes with you. Really can't have this is our second boxing segment of this program. We can't have another boxing segment without mentioning the return of Manny Pacquiao. He's set to fight Brandon Rios in November of this year. Last two fights, this man has lost. Of course, Marquez, as we talked about, was really focused, and that's why he knocked him out in the sixth, even though Marquez
very focused.
Very, very focused. Yeah, even though Marquez doesn't have that type of power to knock a guy out in the sixth, especially a guy like Manny Pacquiao. But somehow got it done at age 39. Where does Manny go from here? And Brandon Rios is not exactly a big name. I assume this is some type of setup fight to get Manny more comfortable, get him back in the ring, get him to a winning place. Then does he take on Floyd, or is this just a dream? We got to put this in the bag. That fight is just never going to happen.
Ooh, I just can't see. I can't see the Floyd Pacquiao, but who knows? I mean, there's 5 more on the horizon. If Pacquiao is willing to dump Arum, maybe that last fight. But I don't think he's going to take. I mean, Floyd's last offer was $40 million. Whereas Mayweather would still probably make $75 to $100 million for that fight minimum. I don't think Pacquiao's pride will allow that to happen. Possibly his pocketbook could incentivize it if he's, blowing through money as he's historically done. I think Rios is a wonderful fight. I mean, kind of the fight we were talking about that fans want. It's going to end in a knockout. These are both fighters who refuse to go backwards, both big punchers, big heart, and I think in both cases, great chins. So, boy, I mean, I think it'll be a tremendously exciting fight. Behind the scenes, Rios and his camp made fun of Freddie Roach, mocking his Parkinson's, very tasteful line of humor. And I know that Freddie Roach has not forgotten that, and that definitely, I think he mentioned, was an incentive about why they chose Rios. He wants some revenge himself. So I think that'll be a tremendous fight. Wonderful, wonderful action fight. And yeah, absolutely, Pacquiao's coming off a brutal, brutal knockout that was scary. And this is not an easy fight to take as your follow-up to some kind of, just the trauma to his ego, the trauma potentially of him being a shot fighter at this point, even though I thought he fought very well against Marquez. I think he was dominating the fight. I mean, I don't know, dominating. He was winning the fight, I think, quite handily. But boy, that was such an arresting knockout. So great fight. And after this, probably the money would go that he would fight the winner of Bradley and Marquez after that, which would be a huge fight for Pacquiao, especially if it was Marquez who came out on top. But yeah, I'd love to see him still fight Mayweather. I wish they could figure out a way to make that happen.
Now, so you still think, even though Manny has lost his last 2 fights, so granted, most people thought he beat Timothy Bradley and should have got the decision, but even so, the 2 losses, there still would be $40 million of payday for Manny Pacquiao against Floyd, and Floyd would make $70 million if that fight happens within the next 6 months to a year, even though Marquez has dipped a little bit.
Oh, I don't think Floyd will go anywhere near compromising with anybody at this point in his career. I think he's only going to ask for more and more money, and I think he enjoys demeaning Pacquiao by reducing the payday even more. It might even be less than $40 million. He'd say, that was $40 million before you lost to Marquez and looked so ordinary. I mean, you're a shot fighter. Why would I give you the opportunity to fight me? You need to earn it. All his excuses. But boy, it's paid off for Floyd. I mean, I don't respect the way he's picked his opponents. I certainly don't respect somebody like Guerrero as his last opponent. I mean, what did Guerrero really done to merit that fight? I mean, he fought some good fights leading up to it, but I just mean, why isn't Mayweather trying to establish a legacy as the greatest ever if that's what he thinks he is? Fight Sergio Martinez. Fights, there are some big fights that are still out there. I suspect Mayweather will probably get a chance at Amir Khan, just because Amir Khan has a big audience. We haven't heard the pay-per-view numbers yet on the Mayweather-Guerrero fight. I don't think they will be as good as people thought. It felt, especially here in New York City, the buzz was not really there for that fight. Guerrero was sort of an unknown commodity, even though he was Mexican, didn't really have the Mexican audience. Doesn't sound like Mayweather wants Canelo. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Mayweather's career goes for the last 5 fights.
All right. Of course, has that deal with Showtime, and we'll see how much he has left in the tank at this age, at 36. It was 6 years ago he actually retired, but boxers never retire, as they like to say. Brin, great stuff as always. Always a pleasure to have you on Louis Live on Israel Sports Radio. We will be in touch, and enjoy the fights out there, even though we don't get to see boxers fight so much anymore. But there's always YouTube. That's what I like to say with that as well.
Exactly.
All right, Brin, be well out there. We'll speak to you soon.
Great talking. Talk soon.
All right, be well. Brin-Jonathan Butler, the director of Split Decision here on Louis Live on Israel Sports Radio. Great job as always. He talked about Guillermo's win, the biggest win of his career. No one seemed to care so much. At least, thankfully, the judges did get it right, even though there was the 10th round knockdown. Clearly, Guillermo won that fight over Donaire. Donaire, the 2012 Fighter of the Year. You'd think dominating a guy like that would put you more on the map, put you some big paydays in the $5-10 million range, but at this point, it looks like it is not to be. That concludes our show for tonight. I want to thank our 4 guests. We started the program off with Joe Robbins, talking about Floyd Mayweather's legacy and his dominant performance over Robert the Ghost Guerrero. And Joe had 10 rounds of the fight going to Pretty Boy Floyd. Then we had Scott Neiss of Israel Lacrosse, a game on Friday, Tel Aviv versus Jerusalem in Tel Aviv. And then they go on a tournament a week from this weekend in England. If you want to find out more about Israel Lacrosse, check out their website, israellacrosse.co.il. And our thanks to Yoel Bar Nathan for helping me set up that interview with Scott. And then, of course, we had Adam Bagni from NBC talking about the so-called end of the Boston Celtics. Perhaps it is not the case. Doc and Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce could be around for one more run. Time will certainly tell on that front. And then we finish the program with Brin-Jonathan Butler, the director of Split Decision. Stay tuned next week and the next couple weeks, as we'll have a lot of great programming and a lot of great stuff. But that's it for tonight. God bless and good night.